I'm actually doing another video. Here we go. We're going to talk about paper clutter. I am Dana K. White of aslobcomesclean.com and the podcast A Slob Comes Clean. I'm also the author of How to Manage Your Home Without Losing Your Mind and Decluttering at the Speed of Life. Life, not light. Life, like actual real life where real life happens and real emotions happen. Anyway, so I'm talking about paper clutter. Thanks to Dawn from The Minimal Mom for putting together a playlist, which has obviously been very motivating for me with Clutter-Free January. We're talking about paper this week. If you want to know how to get your paper perfect, go to other people, okay? I have significantly reduced our paper clutter in our home over what I call my deslobification process. It is no longer overwhelming to us just by reducing the amount of paper in our home. So I'll give you really quickly what it is that we do, but if you want detailed paper organizing, skip to another video because that's not what we're going to talk about today. Instead, what we're going to talk about after I give you my quick little basics of how I've reduced is breaking through overwhelm, because paper is the most overwhelming clutter because it all feels important. So we're going to talk about breaking through that feeling of being overwhelmed and that natural paralysis that happens when you're decluttering. So how have I reduced the paper in my home? Number one, we've gone digital as much as we possibly could. We started doing everything we could already online and just said, no, we don't want paper stuff to be delivered to my house. Did you know that your bank, even if you're doing things online, if they send you something, they're probably charging you to send you paper that you don't need and you don't want. Anyway, so yeah, we've gone digital. Basically, anything that comes into your house through the mail, look at the bottom and see there is usually a place where you can go, either call or go to a website and switch so that you only get the digital option from then on. Okay, that's going to significantly reduce your paper. The other thing is I have to be the one to get the mail. I can't trust anyone else in my house to not put everything that came in the mail that day on the dining room table. And if it goes on the dining room table, all of a sudden it's clutter. It's overwhelming. It's something to tackle. As opposed to if I go to the mailbox and I bring it back in the house, I go straight to the trash can recycling bin and I get rid of anything that we don't need. Generally, that's everything. And when it's not everything, it's maybe like 2 things that we actually need to keep. That reduces paper clutter so significantly if you will just do that. The other thing is having a container. This container I keep in the actual spot where paper goes anyway. Okay, that's where paper ends up. This is a paper-sized container, and the container concept applies in every single thing in your home. And that is, this is the designated place for something, and it's a limit. It serves as a limit so that when it gets full, my mind goes, oh yeah, I need to get rid of some stuff because that container has reached its limit. Okay, the paper has reached the limit. All right, but let's talk about what we're really here to talk about today, because this is my specialty. I'm not a minimalist, as you can tell by the fact that I have a mannequin in my house and I'm not getting rid of it because I like it. Anyway, I am here for the overwhelmed, because that was me. And that is my natural tendency when I see a pile of clutter, is to think, oh my goodness, what am I gonna do? So I've had to come up with steps that help me work through the clutter, no matter how overwhelmed I feel. And that's the thing about paper clutter. It all feels important. It can gather so quickly, and it feels like it's outside of your control because it's just coming in through the mailbox. You guys, I relate so much to Kramer in that Seinfeld episode where he wanted to stop the mail. I mean, I get it. Like it feels like you can't, other things you think, well, hey, I can stop shopping, I can do whatever, but paper just tends to keep coming. Kids' papers, coming in from school, all that, although there's a little bit less of that now with Corona. But anyway, it's very overwhelming, and paper naturally feels important. It feels like it's a decision that I'm going to have to make. And so my overwhelm, my decluttering paralysis kicks in, and it makes me just want to pretend that it doesn't exist. Meanwhile, it grows, it gets bigger, more overwhelming, which makes me shut down even more. All right. So what I'm going to talk about is the same principles that I use for any pile, okay, for any pile, and they work with paper clutter too. And that is, the way I make myself get started is I tell myself, I am focusing on having less, okay? As long as I have less in this space than I did when I started, I will have decluttered successfully. What that means is I am not starting by saying, my end goal is to have every single piece of paper in this entire house be neatly put into a certain. When I start going down that road, I think, okay, that's great and that's my goal. But when I look at the amount of paper that I'm dealing with, I know that for that to happen, it's going to take a whole lot of concentration, a whole lot of energy, a whole lot of uninterrupted time. And so that's never going to happen. And so I'm just going to, oh well, give up before I start. Okay. That's the whole thing of decluttering at the speed of life. Is I'm talking about life with interruptions, life with energy limits, all of that kind of stuff. And so the main thing is to focus on less. Say, I will consider it successful if I get rid of anything. If I have less in this space than I did when I started, I will consider it a success. I'm not going to be done, but I will have decluttered, because decluttering just means that I'm getting stuff out of my house, okay? So how do I actually go about doing that? Well, the number one step in my decluttering process is trash. I know, right? And I mean, paper, come on. It's trash. Like, that's undeniable trash. And when I say trash because I know that there are people in this world like me, who lives in a small town, who do not have access to recycling stuff. I mean, we don't get recycling bins. We don't have recycling come around. Recycle if that is something that you have already established in your home and it's accessible to you. That's what you need to be doing, because you have that accessible to you. The reason that I say trash is that sometimes, a lot of times, the people like me who are already overwhelmed think about wanting to do the very best thing. And then when recycling is not as accessible, then we just stop and we just don't do anything. So I say trash. You're smart enough to know that I mean recycling if you have that as an established routine, okay? But we're going to talk about working through that. So what do I mean when I say trash? I mean actual trash. I'm talking about the stuff that doesn't require any thinking, any decision making, any analysis. It's not going to require me remembering anything or thinking into the future and figuring out what's going to happen in the future. Okay, I am literally looking for trash. So what that means is when I go through a pile of paper and it seems like it's all going to be important, that's not usually true. Okay, it's basically never true, because piles attract other things into their pile, which makes them grow, which makes them more overwhelming. You think that it's going to be all important, and it's not. So I'm going to give myself permission. If I am paralyzed and I can't even think about deciding, is this something to go in long-term stuff? Is this something to go in short-term? Is this something to go in my action file? If I'm not even there yet, then I am going to give myself permission to just go through the pile and remove the trash, okay? It's a non-emotional, non-overwhelming way to get me to actually do something. Here's the thing. When I do that, generally piles will go from this big and I just remove the trash and they go to this big. That means that pile is less overwhelming. The other thing that it makes me do is it makes me look. This is another one of my, seriously, why does it have to be a strategy? But it does have to be, for me, decluttering strategies. And that is look. Always look. Don't assume that you know what's in the pile. And if you'll give yourself permission to just go through the pile and just remove the trash, and you're not going to make any difficult decisions, it makes you look at things. And then, even though you've gone from this to this just by removing the trash, and you haven't actually made any real decisions, first of all, you're better off because your pile is smaller, your pile is less overwhelming, but also you've looked. You've looked in your pile. You've looked through your pile. You know what is in there. Even if you didn't take the time to stop and think about it, it's no longer this ambiguous, overwhelming, I wonder what's in there kind of stuff. You're gonna know, okay, well, there actually wasn't anything life-changing in there. Or there wasn't actually anything, you know, big and daunting and scary in there. Or there was, but now you know what it is, okay? Because when I get overwhelmed, my tendency is to just go, blah, 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 I'm not gonna think about that. And when I do that, then everything stays out of control and grows and gets worse, and I'm just living in denial. But by going through it and just looking for trash, I have touched everything, I have looked at everything, I now have a real awareness of what I'm gonna deal with. And that pile is smaller, so now I'm more likely to go back through it, and I have an actual understanding of what in general is in that pile, okay? So I'm just gonna go through this right here and pull out trash, okay? Let's see what happens. All right, I'm gonna do it kind of down here because you guys are the internet, which means that you're wacko, and I don't want you seeing my business. Okay, all right, let's see. I'm going through, I'm not making any big decisions. All right, here we go. That's a lot less stuff in not very much time. And now I know what's in here. I know what's left in here. And I know there's some things that I'm like, oh, I'm gonna have to deal with that. I need to have my husband look at these cards and make sure, does he need to get rid of them? But whatever, it's reduced, okay? So if you are feeling overwhelmed by paper clutter, give yourself permission, or take my permission, because I wrote the book, take my permission to look, always look, and give yourself permission to only get rid of the trash, okay? You might go slower than this, you might get a lot less done, but you will have done something. And that getting started is so important. But don't assume you know what's in the pile, and give yourself permission to just reduce it, to just have less. And tell yourself that if you have less, you will have decluttered successfully. You won't be finished, but you will have decluttered. Okay, I hope that was helpful. Make sure you check out the playlist for actual tips on organizing your paper clutter. Can't organize clutter, you know what I mean. All right, bye.